So today, I've got Lex Coors, and Lex is the CTO of Interxion. A few facts about Lex, I'll embarrass you here. So
Sure.
A couple industry awards, 2010, I think it was a broad group, I forgot the title of that one.
Was the broad group was the contribution.
Contribution to the industry, yeah. And then you had to get another one, so that was 2016, I think you got
the other way around, yes.
Right, so DCD...
DCD was the contribution, and the other one was the 15 years backwards.
Gotcha, 15 years of experience in the industry itself, yeah. And another interesting point about Lex is you've been with the same company for 19 years.
Correct, yes.
19 years. So in our industry, we've got a lot of folks that move around. I was with Sun Microsystems for 17 years, but I did 2 different stints, right? And I had a startup in the middle. And I was with eBay for 6, and then now I've been with Uber for 2.
Yeah.
But 19 years at the same company is a lot of commitment.
That's correct.
A lot of experience in that too.
Yeah. And it's not always easy, because you have to be able to continue to change and continue to come up with new things as well, because you can change, but if you do not come up with new things, it's a dead end. And that's typically one of the things that's difficult when you're long in the same company, because they call you kind of blind for your own position and for everything around you. So yeah, it's not always easy, but I still enjoy it a lot.
So they consider like the old timers, right? We've been here a long time.
We are indeed, yes.
They have innovative ideas.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of history to make sure that when you go into things, you are informed as you make decisions.
Yeah.
But disruption is a big part of that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So why don't we back up a little bit? I've known Lex for a while, and let's talk about the first time we met. So on the phone.
On the phone.
2005.
Yes. So the funny thing is, we were both involved in the same program. Sun, CPU for $1. You called it $1 for a CPU.
Yeah, so Sun Microsystems, Sun Grid. Anybody remember that? Okay, so they turned on the Sun Grid for $1 a CPU hour.
Yeah.
2005.
2005, and I had done London for Sun, and they asked me to do, let's say, the design of their data centers in the U.S., Columbus, Ohio, and Houston. Mm-hmm. And you were on the other side. You were here in the Nordic, and we were talking about how shall we do this,
Yeah. Trondheim, Norway.
Yeah,
where's
absolutely.
Norway? Represent.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that was fun. The Sun Grid part of it. This is right when cloud computing was really starting. If you think about it, AWS was forming in a similar time frame. Yeah. Sun was in that space. Yeah. I mean, a lot of other companies came in to try and figure out how to deploy that, but only a few of them emerged and actually were successful.
They were ahead of the curve. If you think about this, so you had, I think they should have focused on retail, easy. But what they did, they focused on, let's say, banks. So now we're suddenly dealing with issues like we have these servers next to each other, on top of each other. Oh, now we need to have an air gap. You remember? Oh, an air gap is not enough. Now we also need a steel plate underneath and top, and from there it gets, let's say, to more difficult and more difficult. But the idea was there. It was a kind of cloud thing.
Yeah, and here's some of the concepts that were interesting too. When you said the banks.
Yeah.
What they really thought was that people need to be close to their data center.
Yeah.
And so they were saying, we got to put this in London.
Yeah.
The most expensive real estate in most of the world, right? They land a data center there because the banks wanted to have close access, understand for trading and those types of things. But there was a huge liability to it. And the banks didn't really migrate to the cloud. You think about it, the majority of them are still on that journey. Yeah. It was for everybody else in the hyperscale market, et cetera, and startups, et cetera. But so that was a fun time. That was actually
definitely.
Yeah, that was where a lot of containment stuff started too.
Containment, yes, because 2005, so 2004, I actually got a requirement from Yahoo in Amsterdam, and they asked us, okay, we have these 8 kilowatt racks, and 8 kilowatt racks in 2004, that was something really scary. And I only had a 30 centimeter high raised floor, so no way in my imagination I could cool that. So I thought, okay, how do I do that? How do I get the air to that rack? And then I thought, you know what, let me first try to put a cooling unit in between, So I was working with Sun, or not with Sun, with APC. APC was into CFDs in those days, and a CFD in those days was cost around 3,000 to 4,000 euros one. And I said, you have to help me. So, but they were working on hot containment. So they were actually, let's say, not really working with me, but they could not even, also not, let's say, ignore me. So they helped me kind of, but not really. And then we figured out, okay, really. So let me contain it. So then we created a box. And that worked. So Minkels was the first company in Europe who actually brought it to the market for production, because we said, look at this, maybe it works for you. It had nothing to do with efficiency in those days. It only had to do with capacity. So afterwards, we figured out, oh, that's quite efficient. And you were there when you were working on the hostile containment side, because you were in Norway and you were working on that hostile part. So yeah.
So it's funny, the way that we met was over the phone first in the Sun grid aspects. And then we met again at the Uptime Institute. I think it was the first time face-to-face, right? New York, I think it was. And but if you look at the next thing we did was the 2009, I joined the Green Grid, and so you were on the advisory council already. And we spent a lot of time, and this was a discussion that came up quite a bit. The containment part. So like for myself, when I was at Sun, I worked in the engineering side, and we ran the operations for the global technology portfolio. And so we had to deal with all the new stuff before it came out. So the reason that containment and stuff came for us was we were doing 15, 20 kilowatt type things. And then Andy Bechtelsheim, if you guys know, at a different session, he's the guy that was driving this density and everything for supercomputing, all the high performance computing back in the first part of 2000. And so it's just interesting how that's evolved over time. But that drove right into now 30 centimeter floors that there's no way in hell you can do 8 kilowatt. Well, how do you double that?
It was difficult, absolutely,
And tell me a little bit more about the experience on the AC for the Green Grid, because we spent probably 3 or 4 years together.
Yeah, we were together on the AC for the Green Grid. And first of all, we had this big common goal, PUE. And you could see, that was kind of the first time that people really came together and were sharing information, willing to work together. Because before that, if you had a good idea, I have a great idea. And you kept it to your heart,
It's mine.
It was not, it's mine,
I can't share with you.
I cannot, no, absolutely not. So in those days, we really started to work together. A team of people, collaborating, sharing ideas. Never, it was mine, this is for the greater good, it was. And I think that was a big success. The other big success for the Green Grid, I think, was the global harmonization program. Because one of the things we truly believed in as well is you can have, let's say, this great idea for the US or this great idea for Europe, but that does not contribute for the whole world. So we started this global harmonization program. It was fun, actually the AC telling the board, this is where you have to focus, and then
actually, I want to expand on that one, because that was a little disruptive at the same time. So we just thought, as an advisory council, our role was to advise. Seems to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So what we would do is have this top of mind, interestingly how these concepts are still used within iMasons, is that we would go back and say, what's hot with you today, right? What have you been dealing with the last 6 months? And so all those would start to belly up into these themes. And the themes we would do every AC meeting and go right back to the Green Grid board and say, hey, by the way, these are things on the top of mind from a lot of these different companies, and we had a really good mixture. I mean, Eddie Shooter was on that, and a bunch of folks, and then that was, well, but we're going this direction. We're doing these things. Like, okay, is anyone going to consume that? Do we really have our finger on the pulse of what those things were? And so I thought, to me, that was one of the best things for us in the Green Grid part, was the collaboration and that conversation, and like you said, openness that came from there. Oh, I had that problem too. Boy, so what was it? And then influencing the other side. Yeah, so the gringo is a good time. I also learned something about Lex during that, and I realized you don't mess with Lex. So you've been yeah, I'm not kidding. So you have let's see, you call it Chinese boxing.
It's part of Kung Fu. So when I was 4 years old, I started my education. And so I started with Kung Fu. I started with the animal styles, later all united under the dragon. And I started at the same time also...
You mean like Kung Fu Panda, right?
Sure, something like that,
That
yes.
one, yeah.
And then I also started same time with Chinese boxing. Chinese boxing is the hard style of Kung Fu. So fist, elbows, knees, foot, kicking, throwing, strangling, all the hard stuff. Including the contests, 1 round, 5 minutes, no protection, everything allowed other than not allowed to step on the throat and let's say to take this central nerve point out. So I must say, you know, and I had to do these contests, and I still remember that after a few years, I actually enjoyed it. But after a few years, I remember, what am I doing here, you know?
Yeah.
So I told my teacher, I said, teacher, you know, I do not want to do contest anymore. So he hit me straight in the face. He said, you're a terrible student. He said, I had to wait 3 years before you found out that contest is wrong. I said, okay. So then we continued, let's say, on the art of war, Sun Tzu. It's still used by me during my business, actually.
You said Heart of War?
The Art of War.
The Art of War. Oh yeah, the book.
Yeah. So deception, misleading, getting your goals, go for it, you know.
We call that influencing business development.
Sure.
Translating here, just
Yeah, so philosophy, so Lao Tse, you know, all the kind of, so everything came together. So I still use it a lot, still practice a lot, by the way.
I'm sorry. So I just laugh here because Jeffrey, Jeffrey is Lex's son, and he's in the industry as well. Welcome to our industry. We're glad to have new talent. I just wonder. So both of your kids. Your daughter,
yes,
right? What was her name?
Romana,
yes, and Jeffrey,
yeah.
Practice, right?
Yeah.
So, and you've been doing this 54 years.
54 years for me now.
That's what I mean. Don't mess with Lex. Just or you want him as your bodyguard. That was my main thing.
I only look after myself.
But there's somebody who actually is a little more fit than you. Your wife. This is another fun
yes,
fact.
Yes.
So your wife's name?
Sandra Negis.
And Sandra, right, is the number 2
World belly dance of the world.
Belly dancer.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah. But yeah, she is still very fit. She still dances. Well, she still is practicing about 4 hours a day. In my family, in our tradition, the mother is always the head of the family. And they always, let's say, give direction. They tell us what to do, and we just obey, we just follow. And so that's easy for me. We do the same here in this family, and she's doing everything, finance, everything, marketing, whatever we have. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. We just heard from Julie about unconscious bias, and in the industry. And it's funny. I found myself with a few things with. So I have a 20-year-old daughter, and so I'm outnumbered the house 3-1, right? So my wife, my mother-in-law, my daughter. So and my boss is my wife.
Yeah.
Right? It's great.
Yeah.
So, but the unconscious bias that comes back, and you gave a good example.
Yeah, so I always say, when God invented women, he said, wow, this is complex. Let me give them a simple servant, and that is man. That is why we are so strong, just to carry all the stuff, guys, you know. And then the women make us believe that we are in charge. No way. I give you this one example. So you're sitting on the couch, and your wife is just saying, oh, we need to paint, or we need to do work, this or that. 3 months later, you're actually doing this, and you think it was your idea. And if I see all the men, yeah, I recognize that part. So guys, forget all about it. Just accept.
You just said about the art of war, etc. That was deception and controlling.
Oh, absolutely, everything in one go. That's my DNA.
Yeah, that's right.
So now we wonder who's the writer.
That's right. So let's back up. Can you tell me how you got into this industry? 'Cause it's an interesting story.
So I started my career as a ship engineer, and I started with the ship delivery for a company called Dame Shipyards. Dame Shipyards was known for their modular ships. Modular ships meant you had one type of hull, and you could turn it into everything, a firefighter, fisher ship, tugboat, whatever you wanted. You could also, let's say, prepare it partly, sail it to, let's say, the part you had to go to the harbor, and then add up the modules again to what you wanted. It could even grow over time. So when I joined Interxion in '99, they gave me 144 million guilders, 72 million euros, to build 11 data centers in 11 countries. And in those days, engineering was in charge, by the way, you know, manager rollout. So because the business didn't had an idea of where it would go. They only knew we have to sell, there is an opportunity. So I thought, okay, I can now build my data centers to the standard of that day, 400 watts per square meter, maybe 500-ish. I thought, you know what, this will change. So I designed the data center for 1.5 kilowatt per square meter already, 99, early 2000. I chopped the building into 4 pieces, into 4 phases, 1,000 square meters each, 400 watts implemented, and it was, let's say, developed in such a way that you could add capacity without any interruption to the customer load. And we called it modular build-out. And funny, when I was at the first Uptime Institute Orlando in the Hyatt Hotel symposium, we started talking about it. People were laughing about it. It was 2006. People were laughing about modular build-out. Really, really.
That crazy
weird.
Lex guy. Yeah, yeah. They didn't say it to your face, though.
So. Well, they told me. They can tell me anything. You know what? I'm a relaxed guy.
So you joined Interxion, but you also had a stint there in the military in the middle, correct? I think that
so that was before. So from 84 to 86, mandatory. I was asked to join the military.
Asked to join mandatory.
Yeah, sure. Asked to join me. Yeah, that's no longer there in the Netherlands. I still believe, although it was a terrible waste of my time, I still believe there was something good there. First of all, learn to wait. So you learn to wait, that's one. Second is just do whatever they tell you. But so many people today, if you have a team and you say, can you do this? They're already upset. Can you not ask me please to do this or kind of things? Hey, come on, you know, we're all paid for this, you know, get going. So I think there's a lot of change. I wouldn't say let's get the military back, but maybe in the iMason program, put something like discipline.
I think we have a head of discipline right here. So you talked about Yahoo earlier and so you've got this modular concept that had come in towards the
end of 99.
Yep, so 99. And Yahoo really came in 2004, because during that period there were people that were talking about containment and other stuff, but it was Yahoo that actually drove the need, correct?
Yeah, they were the first, and we really like
right?
this. Amsterdam, yes, Amsterdam side.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
So they actually came over and they were talking about 8 kilowatt racks. We never heard about it. Mm-hmm. In all fairness, we never heard about it. And they said, this is what we want, and this is how you have to set it up for us in the. But they haven't figured out either how to actually cool it. Mm-hmm. So at the end, the racks never came.
Really?
Yeah, the racks never came.
The design worked, though. Okay.
Design was all done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the next point, too. You think about the bubble, the burst that happened, right, in the early 2000 time frame. I remember I had actually left Sun right at 2000, and I was in my own little startup bubble.
Okay.
The world's kind of falling apart around, and yet we had $88 million, and we were building all this stuff. And it was interesting to watch where all of the demand dried up, and all this capital that was invested, both in data centers as well as fiber, and you just think about all the deployments around the world. And then you get into everything is around cost cutting and optimization, et cetera. And then you start introducing this thing around PUE, and then it just starts fast forwarding to 2005, 2008, and suddenly it becomes this more standard thing that it's not about the capacity, it's really about the efficiency.
Yeah.
And then right into the green grid and all of those.
Yeah.
And I remember Christian and Chris Malone, so the two fathers of PUE.
PUE.
They donated the PUE concept to the green grid, and the primary reason for that was to help move the industry along with it, and it's now the adopted standard about efficiencies within data centers.
But those were tough times. So in 2002, we really went through the deepest part of our being there. You know, we were.
And this is within Interxion.
At Interxion.
Yeah.
So we were out of money, kind of. Well, fortunately, we hadn't spent all of our money, let's say, on capacity, because we had more to build out. So there was at least something there.
Crazy idea.
But then when we went through and it came up again, so in 2004, actually the market started picking up again in Europe for us. But now I had a second issue. So now I had data centers with 400 watts and I had no other capacity and we had no money. So I still remember that I called Roger Dowdell, the CEO of APC. And I said, you know, Roger, I said, I have a major problem. I said, you know, I have customers, I have data centers, I have infrastructure, but you know what, I do not have enough capacity in UPSs. And he said, you know what, Lex? He said, we believe that you guys will make it. So you just order your UPSs, and when they start creating revenue, then you start paying me. I think, wow, that's great from this guy. So I immediately after, I called the CEO of Uniflare, Francesco Bettella. I said, you know, Francesco, I said, you know about this modular build-out from us? You know, I said, this is my issue. I said, and by the way, I said, I spoke to Roger. I said, APC. I said, and he thought this was fair and good. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what, Lex? We do the same. So that really helped us to go through this whole difficult part. It really gave us comfort in our growth. And afterwards, they were taken over by Schneider Electric.
Yeah, both purchased, yeah.
So funny enough, in 1999, we already decided to take Schneider Electric for our electrical switchgear. Mm-hmm. So we had Schneider Electric, APC, and we had Uniflare. And suddenly everything was called Schneider Electric. So nearly everything was Schneider Electric in our data centers as well now, yeah.
And, you know, there's a really important point in that. You know, we talk about how relationships matter. And so, and you never know who you're going to work for or who's going to work for you. Yeah. And you never know what partnership is going to come back through and catch you.
True. Yeah.
Really interesting, right?
Yes.
You were able to call two executives at different companies and say, hey, I don't have any money, but you need to trust me that there's something there, and they did. Now, the only reason that works is they could.
Well,
correct?
Yes, they could, but don't forget there were others around us who basically stepped away from us as well. So, you know, you could see that as well. People were kind of afraid if you asked them something, what is your bank guarantee? And, you know, so it wasn't that, so, but they were there, that's for sure.
Yeah, so back to just the basics around how relationships do matter.
And that is why at the end of 2 days here, we are so tired, because we do spend a lot of time talking basically to everyone. People want to talk to us, we like to talk to other people. And because, you know, we are where we are, but we have to move on as well still. Mm-hmm. And also for the other ones, you know, they can tap into what we know, and we help them where we can as well. So basically the iMason philosophy.
Yeah, and this is always great, because when you get, especially like Jeffrey, I keep coming back to you. So you got a new mind, and then let's see. Yes, so we met on Sunday, right? Yes. Hey, Rebecca, right? Yeah, so Rebecca, you've been in the industry for 3 months, correct?
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
So this is, you just take two of you as an example. You know, so I've been doing this 29 years. Yes, right? Things change, and the insights that we get from people that are coming in with a fresh set of eyes, a different mind, right, and a different approach to it, makes the ideas better. And so that is that mutual learning.
Makes the idea better. Sometimes we even throw overboard our own ideas.
Yeah.
In all fairness, you know, and I think that's fair to say. The only thing I believe that has changed is that today it's still here, the 50 plus sitting here. You know,
Don't tell him.
well,
50
yeah,
plus,
I should, Dean,
Yes,
you know.
I just hit the 50,
And in all
okay.
fairness, I think everyone who's in the industry for 10 years, they should basically stand up, beat us up, you know. Just say, your idea, I do not agree with you. Come to the panel discussions, beat us up, you know. We will step down once you take us down there. True or not true?
Yeah,
And
it's
then
true.
we don't step back, because then we fight again through the backyard, and we will come back every time again to keep you sharp. No, but I think it's really time, and that is
Yeah.
what I like about the iMason program. You guys, you put a lot of effort, you put a lot of actually money as well into getting the people educated and getting them really, you know, to be the next leaders of this industry.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's an old boss of mine, his name is Sri Shivananda, and he has this concept about being mentored by an intern. He doesn't mentor the intern mentors him. And he does that once a quarter.
Yeah.
And he brings the person back in, and he said, I want to make sure I'm not out of touch. I want to understand what's going on so
Yeah.
that I can get the insights
It's true.
to think about what's going, because he has a lot of responsibility. He's the CTO at PayPal. And so you think about that, where, you know, not being closed-minded
True.
in
Yeah.
your ways or the highways, you know, that type
Yeah.
of thing. It's really important. So
Yeah.
I wanted, let's go back into management, because this is a very interesting thing. You have a concept, I think you call the Borg?
Yeah.
Borg management.
Borg management.
Anybody heard of Borg management? Okay, yeah. Well, in Star Trek, this is about being assimilated by the Borg, right? Is that the same?
Yeah, actually, it is the same. So I only figured it out when I was in front of one of the coaches. So at Interxion, you go through these coaching programs, you know, to make you better. And they said, you have a weird style of management, Lex, but although, you know, it seems that everyone is aligned within your group, I said, you mean assimilated? So I said, you know, I have no time to manage. I cannot manage the whole freaking day with, you know, all the smart objectives and all the stuff. I said, people have to take ownership, a responsibility, and make things happen the right way. So I said, what I do, I basically use a system that is called Borg. So the Borg are the bad guys at the Star Trek guys. We're the good guys, by the way. But the concept is the same. So you have the head Borg, and then you have all the other Borgs, and they are assimilated. And by being assimilated, they know exactly what is the direction, and they know what is the requested outcome. With that, they just go to the outpost, is the engineering countries. They go everywhere, they do the designs, they do discussions, do the crisis resolution, they do the change management, everything with that same thought in mind. So only now and then, when they think, wow, this is something I really don't know, then they call me. So 1 out of 300 cases, someone calls me. Can you solve this? So I think this is really valuable. It has nothing to do with, let's say, adapting to a group or getting used to a group. This really has to do with everyone being in the same frequency, you know, waving left and right and going for the goal. The other thing that is the important stuff about Borg is knowledge sharing. So if you are an electrical engineer, you join DTEC, then the Digital Technology and Engineering Group, talking about my group, and it's useless if you're only an electrical engineer, because what then do you understand of the organism called data center? So now you have to learn what's mechanical engineering, what is gas suppression, what are security systems, how do they work together, how do I look at all of these things? So that is what I mean as well with assimilation, knowledge sharing, and then giving back yeah, to the rest of the group. So I think that is why I like your program, the iMason program, so much. There are similarities. Your program is advanced. It has an educational level even to it. We have a philosophical idea to it, method. So, but it's yeah, that's the way we do this.
So I'm going to call you Captain Picard.
Thank you. Yeah, he was partly simulated, guys. You know that.
Yes, yes. And your hairstyle is
I
is
do
close
have
to that.
about the
okay.
age, I guess. Thank you.
So let's talk about a different topic. So what do you think in this industry we do well?
Yeah, so I think what we do well in this industry, I think, is communicating, sharing. I think if you really look at this, you see people also here, that's why we come to these venues. They have, let's say, products, they have ideas. Some have, let's say, a small booth, some have large booths. I always look for what is different. You know, there are the obvious ones, but if you listen to the obvious ones, then I still see, okay, why did you bring it from that angle? Why didn't you bring it first from a security angle and then from a product angle? Because I believe security is an important thing. So I think the good things in this industry is these venues, talking to each other, sharing information, being open, get to know each other, by the way, because only sharing information is one thing, but get to know each other, building up friendships, building up, let's say, communities of interest.
All right, let's flip that back around. What do you think we don't do well in this industry?
So what we don't do well, I think it's real innovation. It's real innovation.
So are we locked into traditional ways?
Yeah, we're locked into traditional ways. So if I, let's say, take the old school Bixby, TIA 942 and the Uptime Institute, they kind of have been driving, let's say, our industry for all of these years with classifications. And if you now look at the issue we have to solve, it's basically carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, so sustainable energy sources. But none of that can work if you run your diesel generators as well, you know, so it's the other side, that's the fossil fuel. So what we're not doing right is we don't change things completely and accept it. So it takes us way too long to actually find large-scale, long-term storage to actually really use sustainable energy.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think about the generators and the UPSs and other things that are inside of our data centers, and they're used 1% of the year.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, and usually it's for maintenance and things.
Yeah.
That you're going to run this every month.
Still there,
validate.
yes.
Yeah, you know, this was one thing that I had a fun disruptive moment in my career.
Well, I know about that one.
Yeah. So is Peter in here? Peter Gross?
No.
So Peter is at Bloom, and I remember he reached out when he joined the company and said, you know, hey, we're doing this fuel cell stuff. I'm like, fuel cell stuff, all right. And we were building another phase of a data center. And so I had a little window of time, and I went back to my engineering teams, and I'd heard about other aspects around fuel cells, and I said, you know, folks, are we just repeating like this traditional thing, right? Are we just kind of doing the next thing that we've done for the last 20 plus years? And I said, so would fuel cells work?
Yeah.
And they're scratching their head going, well, I'm not sure exactly how that would go together. So I gave them a challenge. I said, look, we have a little window. You got 2 weeks. I want you to wipe that whiteboard and think about how you would apply fuel cells inside of a data center. Right?
But there you run into the same issue with the classifications. Because I remember very well, because that's how you can see we're long-term friends. So he has this great data center, and it has an extremely high availability. But according to the classifications, it would fall below tier 1. Because he didn't have the diesel generators. He had the fuel cells and the grid. Guess what? So he had to spend, I don't know how much, on a tremendous big long study on availability, reliability. And you remember you shared it, you know, can you guys look at it, the last thing, and then and I was amazed, and actually that never left me, that always stayed with me, that if you really want to innovate, only, let's say, and I'm looking now at Joe, thank you for reminding me of sitting there in my line of sight. Only the guys like Google, Facebook, you know, Amazon and Microsoft, they can afford to just say, you know what, I do everything on solar because it meets my business requirements, and so I'm good to go. But, you know, although they are extremely big and extremely, let's say, powerful, the rest of the industry cannot do it till date.
Yeah, it's
so
hard.
that's one of the
Because it's capital
difficult
intensive,
things.
right? There's money.
It's capital intensive, but it's also acceptance by the industry, because they accept it when Google does it, but they do not accept it when Interxion would do it.
And I also think it's a philosophy. So you think of why does Google do a bunch of these innovative, disruptive type things?
Yeah.
Because it's in their culture.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they say, we want to break things. We want to go back and come up with new ways and new businesses and different things to come out. And so that opens the doors for the people to think that way.
Yeah.
And I had the luxury when I was at eBay to even have this ability to do it.
Yeah, you owned your own data center, yeah.
Yeah, we built and designed this thing. I'm like, okay, well, then we can make a decision. But I will tell you, right, to go back and pitch to say we don't have any generators or UPS. Okay, just think about that for a second. No generators or UPS. We have the street.
Scary.
And we have natural gas.
Yeah.
Right, going to fuel cells that's actually feeding the data center.
Yeah.
So what it ended up doing was the building went down by almost 60% in size, because we suddenly removed the transformation. Like, all these things just changed. And so when the team went in going, this is crazy, and then they came back and said, we've got to do this.
Yes.
I love that, right?
Yeah,
The whole point
yeah.
of let's let the engineers engineer. Here's a real problem.
Yeah.
It's a completely different way to think about it.
Yeah.
But without giving that space and allowing that. So that is a leadership-driven thing.
Yeah.
You're letting them try something.
Absolutely.
And without
Absolutely. There are no crazy ideas. There are ideas that you may not immediately understand, but then take the time to get into the head of the person who is bringing you the idea, and do not defend what you know yourself, but try to understand what the message is.
Yeah. So this is a good segue into, we've got new people coming into the industry.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would say liaise, join, let's say, groups, peer groups like iMasons, come together as a collective, thank you for that, and let's say work together and let's say change the industry, you know, find a way to give us this long-term high capacity storage, so we can simply connect our storage to the 110 kV grid 2 times maybe, and then off we go, and we have DC straight into our servers and we're done.
So I don't know about you, but we work a few hours.
Yeah.
I think there's a reality in this for especially college students and others coming into it.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice around what to expect as you come into this industry?
I think first the fun part. I think first of all you need to understand when you come into this industry, you have everything around you. You have the mechanical parts, you have the electrical parts. This is what I loved about ships. It's kind of the same. Ship in a data center, everything is there. But that also goes together with time. On the ship you cannot leave, you know, if there is an issue. So you should be prepared that when you think it's Christmas, it suddenly is not Christmas. Because there is an issue, you have to solve it. But let's say the energy you get from this, the way forward, if you think about our industry, I think we have decades to go. We just talked about it. Easy decades to go on data centers,
growth.
on growth, especially data growth, that's for sure. So there is a large way ahead of you that it will not be the same every 4 or 5 years. At least that's what we hope.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen it change. There was some stuff that remained the same, but we're now really in changing things as they are.
And I look around this room and I see a lot of faces that I know, and I also know the passion that we've got for this industry.
Yeah.
And so spending that time, it's not like a 9-to-5 job.
No.
But in the end of it, you have, when you find something you really like to do, and you're disrupting, and you're making a change for the world and those things, the hours just fly by. You got to find yourself, I need to stop for a few,
Yes.
some food. But I think that's something that as long as the folks coming in have a perspective on, we really want to, right, ignite
Yeah.
that like passion around what we do, because not to, champion this, but we are the builders of the digital age. Without what we're doing, the world doesn't operate.
It's true.
That's a big statement, but it's true.
It's true.
The foundation of the digital age
Yeah.
is the stuff that we build.
Yeah.
Without that foundation, it crumbles. So anyways, that's a big responsibility. It's very fun, but it's
Yeah.
also, it drives
Absolutely.
me quite a bit, and I know it
Absolutely.
drives
Yeah.
you. So we talked about new folks coming in, but, besides the gray-haired folks.
No hair, folks.
Yeah, mine's blonde. The blonde helps hide it here.
Blonde,
but,
yes.
What about the folks that have about 10 years of experience, kind of the middle of that?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, they really need to take leadership now and take over. Really, guys, you have the 10-year experience, you have the thoughts, come on,
Step up, huh?
step up.
Well, I think we've got a lot of people that step up, but maybe the ones that are, like you talk about hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
And being able to make sure that there is this, but.
Have
but-
you ever seen hierarchy in data center world? I haven't seen it. For instance, I can just walk in. Well, I have to be polite. I knock on the door of my CEO, and then I go in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a normal thing.
Yeah, but you can take a punch in the face, so.
Yes.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Now, I do think that there's a.
Okay. There's
No,
a
we can. I
hierarchy.
remember
Okay.
that. Yeah. So, but I think at least what I've seen is, it's okay to challenge. You just said basically
Yeah.
there was a contradiction between
Yeah.
make sure we got discipline in this, but also we want you to tell us when
Yes.
things are there, because
Yeah.
it is your responsibility to make it better.
I think our commitment, at least here, is that challenge us and we give you proper feedback. We will not, let's say, record it and beat you up on Facebook or beat you up on any other platform. So it's free. Use your time. You're here anyhow, so use your time. When you have a crazy idea, we don't steal ideas either. We love to give credit to the people who deserve, who have the ideas. So I think it's all there. The platform is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up the interview with what you think are the top 3 lessons that you've learned throughout your career.
Yeah. So taking what we all just discussed, I started, let's say, the program called OSDA, the Open Standard for Data Center Availability. That helps to drive sustainability, innovation, and that has a kind of a tool. It's from the Green Grid. I'm the chair for this.
Mm-hmm.
We try to get it endorsed now in Europe. Then we go, I think, to China, South Korea, Malaysia, to see it get it endorsed. So sustainability is important.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the 3 things that I learned in my career that's important, and I'm still working on. I think the other thing that is really important is partnership. It's easy to just, let's say, not build any relations and just hide behind, let's say, your own exposure to be open. I think that's one thing I learned. It's important to be open so people understand who is Lex Coors. He's sitting here, but who is this guy? So now they know who I am. I think that's important. I learned that as well. And I think the third thing that is really important that I learned is never give up. Never ever give up. Just keep going. You will go through times where you see troubles in life. No one can avoid the troubles in life. Everyone will get his share. And if you never had an issue, then a very small issue is your trouble in time. If you have big issues, you may say, well, that's not that bad what now happens. But never give up. Always step up, punch back, fight, and get it done. And yeah.
Punch back. Yeah, there you go. So
There
you
you
just
go.
reminded me of one thing. It sounds like this is partnership, relationships, and participation.
Yes.
So you just, everything you just shared in
Yes,
that one,
whatever
right?
you do.
And not punch in the
Participate.
face. That's not enough.
No,
Yeah,
never
okay.
ever. Only on the shoulder as a friend.
There you go. Wonderful. Lex, thank you very much for
Thank you very
sharing
much
your
for the
insights. We
opportunity as
appreciate
well.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.